What is up, YouTube? I know it's been a while since I posted my last video, but going forward, I want to transition my content into focusing on more AI content and AI related content. I'm going to cover things like the evals, I'm going to cover things like typical workflows, and just how I integrate AI into my life and to my software engineering career. One thing I will start off with is my AI workflow. So I wanted to give you an understanding of how I'm using AI currently and how I'm kind of continuously learning and improving things. I've shared every detail here in the repo as well, so you have the skills that will accompany alongside this video, and you can kind of reach out to me whenever you want if you have any questions. But without wasting any more time, let's jump into the workflow. First thing I do is break things down, right? I break everything I do down. So it always starts in a Node.md file. So you can call it whatever you want. But essentially, it's a goal, it's a file that gives the agent enough information of what the app is doing, where it's going, the current features, the stack that I'm using. It gives it all the information it needs to understand it on a high level view. Again, I'm not breaking down any really technical details here. It's a very kind of high level view of where we're going. You can call it whatever you want. Now, the reason I chose North Star is just makes sense to me. But don't look at the way I'm kind of wording things. Just try and understand the concept that I'm doing. Now, once we have the North Star, I'm going to go down, by the way, and explain each different section. But this is just a high-level breakdown. Then, once I have the North Star MD, I then take that and then start breaking it down into features and phases. Now, for example, I want to build an authentication feature, and so that's the first thing I want to build, for example, so I'll put it in phase 1. The phase 2 will be something about building UI and dashboards, so I'll put that in its own feature and do that. And so that's the kind of second step. And the last step, as you can see, is breaking down those features into further tasks. So think about it in a way that you want to break down every task to the smallest task possible so that any AI can pick it up, right? So you don't really need the most advanced AI to pick it up. You can, any model that you have would be able to complete it and pick it up. That's the goal, right? And now I'm going to kind of explain a bit further, but the goal here is really break down, if you take one thing away from here, is break things down to the smallest tasks possible. So the first thing is the North Star MD. Now, this is a big part because I want you to really plan your app before you do anything. Like really spend an hour or two just going back and forth with the agent that you're using and discuss it, right? The kind of like, it should include what the app is about, you know, what problems you're trying to solve, you know, what we're trying to achieve, who are the users, how is the UX kind of workflow look like. Even though it's a high level document, you need to have an idea of where you are going with the app and how you can make the most out of it, right? Again, I talked about the problem. The reason I mentioned the problems here as well is don't come with a solution when you're trying to build a new app. Don't think I know the best solution and that's what I'm going to code. Sometimes you do, and that's fair enough, but give the model or the agent you're using the problem, right? If you tell it, I'm trying to solve this problem, it might come with different ways of solving it that you might not even encountered. A lot of us are very, especially in software engineering, we are so good in like one thing, like front end or back end, that we forget that there is a whole other world, you know, out there. So we are kind of like, we are so narrow-minded. So the best way to counter that is just come with a problem. What problem are you trying to solve? Explain that in the best way possible, and then let the AI brainstorm with you. Again, don't let it do the thinking for you, but brainstorm with it. And again, this is all high level still, but I want to emphasize that you need to spend at least an hour or two on this, because the clearer the plan is, the easier for you to go forward. It's not just for the agent to understand it, but it's for you to understand, oh, okay, this is how I'm working, this is what I'm going to do, and it's going to make all the editing in the future much, much simpler. And again, it's supposed to have enough information to orient any agent. So it doesn't matter if you're using Claude, Codex, or Kimi, it doesn't matter. If the North Star has enough information, the agent will understand itself will understand the repo and understand the app very well, and so it'll be able to navigate it. Okay, so the second thing is, now we are going to take this North Star and we're going to break it down into features. Now, each feature is going to give you, it should include multiple things in the document. It's going to be an MD file. It's going to collect the outcome and the user boundary. So essentially, what are we trying to achieve with this feature? and kind of what users does it touch. Is it authentication? Is it, you know, the public? Is it just internal? Is it, you're going to ask it a question, and depending on your app, it will be different. But again, you're going to give it a scope. Again, required areas, dependency in the interfaces. So what do we need to create this feature? Do we need like a user interface, dependencies? Do we need any other packages? What areas of the app does it touch? That information that we need currently, and it will give the agent as much information as possible to kind of explore. Again, don't give it too much information to the point where it just goes and does it. Give it enough information for it to explore. Again, this is going to include the architecture and technical decisions. For example, why we use React instead of Vue for some reason, or things like that. Again, it's app dependent, so this is just a high level understanding of what it is, but try and think about it in a way that you give as much information as you can for it to explore, not to actually carry out your instructions step by step. And it's also going to include the build order, the acceptance checks, and the review gates. That's important. That just to make sure what done looks like, essentially, which phase comes first and second, and what it depends on. So things like that is the things that we're going to cover in the feature files. So again, all the skills are in the repo, in the description below in the repo. Use it and have a look at it and create your own. I'm not telling you to follow what I'm doing. I'm telling you to look into it, have an idea of how it works, and then make it your own. And then the final step, as I mentioned before, is breaking it down into tasks. Now, this is the most important part, in my opinion, is because you can break down every task into the smallest atomic task you can, and this is where it saves a lot of context and a lot of time when debugging. And if you spend a little bit more time on this part, then you're good to go. Essentially, what we're trying to show here is that any AI model, doesn't matter if you're using an open source or you're using the latest frontier, should be able to pick it up and understand it. That means that you're giving the task enough information, such as what dependencies does it have? Is there any task needs to be completed before that? What was done previously? What is the actual ticket that we need to complete? What is the testing requirements? So we give it enough information, and it can be in one MD page again, but it gives any agent enough information to go and tackle that without having too many issues. Of course, you should always test things and make sure it works, but think about the concept. Just software engineers, the role was always to break things down to the smallest tasks, and that's what we're telling AI to do. Break it down into the smallest task possible. Not only they will help you with the context management, because now every task you probably won't need to ever compact, and if you do need to compact, I will talk about it a bit later, but you should really reduce the noise. You don't have too much noise in the MD files. Maybe you can suggest what skills it should use for that particular task, but again, I've given you the skills in the description, so you can always take a look at what I do and then make it even better, improve on it, and just suggest any ways that you can improve. And yeah, so now there's a few things that I want to kind of talk about keeping the context useful. Sorry. So one thing is the rewind command. Now, a lot of people, especially in Claude Code, a lot of people, when they see the agent go into a kind of a off track or wrong territory, they try going on Claude Code and start writing up. They start writing up prompts to try and reverse it. If you see that your agent goes off track, just rewind. Go back to the last checkpoint. Don't worry about it. I know it's wasted tokens, but also it will be even more wasted tokens if you keep going and trying to prompt it into correction. It doesn't work that way. It does sometimes, but it's just not worth your time. Just rewind. Delete everything you've done. Rewind. Go to the next checkpoint. The second thing is the clear command. This is my favorite command, and I would highly recommend everybody to use this. Every task, again, because we broke it down to smaller tasks, after every task, I clear the chat. I don't need to have any more context from the previous unless I need a handover, which I've always spoke about previously, but like essentially it's a handover file that shows you what was the last thing that was done, and that's it. So the agent can pick it up. It's included in the description as well, but again, clear every task as soon as possible. Like, you don't want to have any leftover context unless it's needed. And the next one is compact. Compact is something that I don't ever use, but if I see that my chat is about to compact, it means that my current task was probably too big for the model to accomplish. That means I need to break down the tasks even further, and that's what I do. I essentially take the task, try and break it down into multiple tasks, and then carry on. So never use compact. On Codex, it's a much better compacting mechanism than Claude. And like on Claude, I noticed that after 250,000 tokens or so, it loses track, and it requires a lot more prompting and hand holding. Whereas in Codex, you can go all the way. So yes, with Codex, you don't really need to think about too much about compacting at all. But with Claude, if you reach compacting, that means you should break down the task further and help the model kind of digest it. But yeah, if I see it as a sign in Claude, I don't deal with compact in Claude. In Codex, it's a different ball game. And lastly, subagents. Now, this is the most simple way to kind of offload some of the thinking from the main thread. So give it to your subagents, like for things like research work, for exploration. Just tell the model, hey, use subagents to explore this and come back with an answer. Because you don't want to keep the main thread too busy. You just want it to go and do the work and then bring you what it needs. And now I think Claude has also, you can keep persistent memory in a subagent. So there's a way of you keep giving the memory and the subagent keeps the memory. Previously, you couldn't do that. Once you kind of, the subagents used to be disposable. Right now, you can actually make that it keeps the memory, and then whenever you need it, you can grab it from it. So subagents is another extremely useful way of managing your context. Now, I want to dive into some tips and tricks that I use on a daily basis, and hopefully that will help you create a better work for yourself. So the first one is speak it. A lot of people bog down into the details of like typing it and trying to sound very technical and trying to overdo things. But I start off with any of my work, usually transcribing, but now that ChatGPT Live is out, I just speak it. I go around, I kind of kick off my North Star skill, and it kind of works with me like an architect, right? I go about telling my ideas, what I'm thinking, and then it will find out, poke any holes in it, and see if I can improve on it, and then we can go back and forth, and that will take you another hour or two, and that's okay. Speak it, it's easier to said and done, it's easy to brainstorm ideas that way, but then you can take that file, all that chat, and you can like use the add command in Codex, or you can just essentially summarize it and bring it into a chat. But with Codex, it's very simple, but essentially you have everything you thought about written down, and you will get pushbacks. If you're using the skills, you will get some pushback about, oh, what have you thought about this way? Have you thought about that way? And it's just a way of thinking about things. And I found it that I learned a lot more having that conversation rather than me just telling it what to do. And yes, include the why you're doing things, include the limitation that you have, include the doubts that you have about whether this works and all of that. You will be surprised when you include those things, how many times the model actually gives you some feedback that you thought, oh, wow, I didn't even know what this is. And so if you are worried about anything specifically like the authentication, for example, or just the cost, put it on the model. It's okay. Let it figure it out and let it come up with some solutions that you will have to investigate after. But don't worry about context in this stage. At this stage, you just give everything, and then you can start breaking it down and kind of bringing it down into a more succinct information, like more clear information. Sorry. And yeah, bringing out the details, right? A lot of the time when we write, we overthink, and so just when you speak it out there, just bring out the little details that you may have missed. Sometimes when I speak, I want to capture the intent of the UI of what I'm trying to capture from the user. That's not stuff that I would write. I would normally, if I write something, I was like, create me a UI dashboard that does this and that. Okay, but like when I speak it, I want to capture the feeling in a way so I can speak it, and then it will help me create a better UI workflow for that. Now, you should try it. I know it sounds very weird to say that, but once you kind of try and capture what you're trying to achieve by words, you'll see that it actually does a much better job. And then at the end, like I said, take all you wrote and you spoke about and turn it into a plan, North.md, plan.md, whatever you want to call it. But then you can turn it into a robust plan that will, that will help you and guide you and keep you on track when you go off track. Now, the second thing is, this is a quote from Bruce Lee. So observe what is useful, disregard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. Now, I think it's from the book. I'm not sure. I might have got memed here. But the goal here, the lesson here is not about taking my advice and just working in it, or taking anyone like Matt Pocock or even Boris from Anthropic, like don't take their advice and put it straight away and use it. Try and learn from it, understand how they work, but understand that you have different requirements. I cannot do what Boris does because I don't have the unlimited tokens that he has. I cannot do a loop and run on it 24/7 because if I run a loop on Claude Code, my limits hit within the night, so then I don't have anything for the rest of the week. So what you have to do is actually learn the underlying architecture and underlying thinking that they have, take from it and then apply it to your own work. Understand what works for you, what doesn't. For example, loop engineering is great, but it just doesn't work for me. It's because I don't have the tokens that they have. So I understand that, okay, this is a concept that once I get to a stage where I have unlimited tokens, I can definitely capture, but at the moment I cannot. So I have to break it down in a different way and manage my workflow in a different way. So really take what you can, disregard things that don't work, and always make it your own. There's never going to be a workflow that's going to be perfect for you or for anybody. Like, you have to understand that that you will have to create your own perfect workflow. That is, my workflow, which I consider perfect for myself, might be completely disastrous for someone else because they just don't like it, and that's okay. That's the whole point. But you should be learning from other people and seeing how they do it, and then come up with your own way of doing things. Tip 3: test it. Now, choose what test, what fits, what test fit. I always use all the types of tests. So I use end-to-end testing, regression testing, functional testing. The reason is because the AI, the models write much better tests than you do, right? Than the average, let's just say that the average engineer, definitely better than what I'm writing at the moment. It's not because I'm a bad software engineer, it's because it's got to a stage where it can think of edge cases that I wouldn't even think about. And frankly, I don't even want to think about all these testing edge cases all the time. I definitely review it, but I don't want to be the person who constantly write tests and focus on that. I want to focus on the product. I want to focus on launching. I want to remain focused on creating the UI that the user would be like, wow, So this is kind of like, give the model, always write tests. TDD is like the best way kind of to approach it. Always write the test first, and then you can start building the features. I think this is something you can always include. Now, test the real UI. In terms of UI, in the skills, the best way to do that is let the agent create the work. Then you can actually use Playwright to capture the video of it actually working, and then you can view it. And if you have many sections, then let the AI kind of look into the UI and break it down and take a video for you. But you can also test it yourself. Just go and manually test the UI and have a look how it works. That's for the UI. For the backend, you'll have to do more specific testing and more secure testing. And I would recommend using the security plugin by Claude and by Codex to kind of manage that, because it doesn't matter how good we are currently at security, the models are finding exploits that I would never have been able to find personally. I'm not I'm a software engineer. I don't kind of focus on authentication, but I also know that I wouldn't have been able to find some of the bugs that kind of the security testing that plugins have found for me. So definitely use those things. As I mentioned, ask for a short recording. So the skill will give you a Playwright skill that will kind of record the video and the agent actually using the UI, and then you can have a look at it and see, does it fit your vision or not? And then always watch the results yourself. And what I mean here is, you are the decision maker, right? The agent might do it, but really focus on the taste. Is that the way you want the things to be done? The workflow, the UX, the user flow, the way it looks. Really think about how you want it to be. Really think about your vision of things and test it and watch it and constantly improve on it. The code stuff is now irrelevant, and in the next 6 months, I guarantee you, no one will be writing code. It's just about, how do you differentiate yourself now? How do you differentiate your app? What experience are you giving to the user? What taste do you have that will add value to the end user of your product? So always watch the result yourself and really look into it and improve on it. That's how the taste become better, right? Like, I would say that a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, my taste was rubbish. Right now, I still feel it's rubbish, but it's getting better and better every day. So the more you kind of have your own opinions on taste, the more you cultivate that, and always and that's when how you'll differentiate yourself between the competitor app and the rest. I think the taste is probably the most important part of the next phase of kind of software engineering. Now, tip 4, which is a big one, is how we kind of prompt AGENTS.md file and CLAUDE.md. So what information we put in. We're not filling the AGENTS.md or CLAUDE.md files with rules anymore. Gone are the days where you tell it, hey, do this, and don't do that. No, like the new models are much more capable than the average person. And honestly, like for me, it's since 5.4, I think, that I stopped coding a lot of the stuff. I don't really need to review it, but yeah, the new models are much more advanced than what we think. And so all we have to do is give them a map. And by a map, I mean, if you look at the picture here, the image, all I'm telling it is where to find things. So if I wanted to find the feature briefs, hey, find it in this task. If you want to find the authentication, this is where the authentication is at. If you want to find the API, this is where it's at. Give it the map and let it make the decisions. Don't tell it what to do and what not to do. Let it explore on its own, and you will see that the results will get much better, especially those who are using Claude and Opus 5. Give it a go. Just remove your CLAUDE.md for now completely, and then let it run it, and then you'll see the results are much better. That's because the agent is able to think for itself and find things that you might not have explained it as well as it needs to be. Progressive disclosure, essentially point into a problem, but don't tell it what to do. Tell it, hey, I have an issue here, it's doing this and that. Don't tell it how to fix it unless you're 100% sure that's the only way, but let it think of ways of doing it itself. That way it's not constrained, and you might be surprised it will find ways that are much better than what you thought are possible, or it might even find another bug unrelated to what you even saw, and it will try and fix it. So always give it kind of pointing into the right direction, but don't show it the step-by-step way. Yeah, again, show where things live. Let the agent decide how things work. That's something I covered previously, but again, I want to emphasize here is that let the agent, give the agent agency in the best way possible, right? Let it think for itself and give it some more room. Of course, the only rules that you would add would be about the security and what it can't read. So that's something you can do in kind of the settings.json or whatever Codex you're using, whatever agent you're using. But like the only rule that I'll add in those type of files is the update. Always update this file when a new route is added or moved. So if I ever change anything about the auth or the APIs or the structure of the app, I just have this rule here just to let you know, hey, whenever you see me change the structure of the repo, just make a note onto that into the agents.md file or the CLAUDE.md file, and that's it. That's the only rule I give it, so it kind of learns continuously. Honestly, this is probably the biggest tip that I could give, in a sense that this is the biggest change that I've noticed, especially with the new Claude models. And ChatGPT has always been, Codex has always been that good in following instructions. So since I think ChatGPT 5, I've only given it the map. But with Claude now, especially with the latest models, like just give it a map. Just stay out of its way, direct it, point it. You are you kind of like, you're the orchestrator. You tell it what to do, but don't tell it how to do what it's doing. It does a much better job at figuring it out than we would probably do that. And the last tip I will give you is very simple. Think big and enjoy it. Now, I'm not trying to sound motivational or philosophical, but what I'm trying to show you is that you do not need to know everything. A lot of the time, we build things that reflect our current level of knowledge. So for example, if I knew how to build websites, all I'm doing is building website with Claude Code. If I knew how to build a web app, all I'm doing is creating a web app. But what I'm trying to tell you is that you can actually think bigger, right? There's no limitation right now. AI is going to get better and better. In the end of the year, I believe you'll be able to replicate almost every app in a couple of prompts. I'm not saying one shot everything, but like I think with half an hour of work, you could probably replicate most of the apps. But the goal here is to kind of stretch your thinking. So if you've done web apps all your life, great. Move into iOS apps. Maybe try and create something different. again, you don't have to know, once you are a software engineer or even a vibe coder, once you understand the basics of software and coding, then you can move and transition between different frameworks. So I would always say, utilize the power that AI has. You don't have to write code anymore. You don't have to know the syntax as much. You have to understand what a function is, for sure. You have to understand what, object is, great. But once you understand those, they kind of transfer into different languages. The best example I can give is my little brother. He was a data engineer, and he's now creating an iOS app, and it's ready for production. And within a few weeks, he will launch it. But it's not because he knew everything. He just took the time. He spent the time to learn it, to reverse engineer every feature he did, to try and pick it up, and he managed to do that. And so I think it's just goes to show that you don't need to know everything. And any engineer who will tell you, if you don't know what you're doing now, then you're probably behind. No, just start, stretch yourself, push things, do things that you've never thought were possible. Like, really think big. Right now, and honestly, creativity is the biggest blocker to people. So be creative. Think about different ways of approaching things and just put it out there. Another one is let the unknown show you where to look. So a lot of the times we come to the chatbot or to the agent and kind of tell it, this is what I want you to do. But when you're exploring, when you are creating a new app, or when you are trying to create a new idea, really come from a perspective of the problem. Give it the problem and explore with it how many things that you haven't thought about. I guarantee you that if you start with a problem first approach, there will be so many unknowns that you haven't even thought about, and that should be exciting. It's not that we know everything. You shouldn't know everything. If you know everything, you're probably in the wrong place. But if the fact that you don't know things gives you more intuition and inclination to kind of learn more things and understand it. And that's what you develop. A lot of the people think that you will lose your skill of thinking with AI, but it's not the case. It's how you use it. If you're going to use it to get the answer only, you probably will lose skill. But if you're trying to explore things that you haven't previously explored, the marketing aspect of an app, maybe the authentication, if you've never touched authentication before, and you kind of reverse engineer it, and things that you haven't thought about will come, and you will learn. You will pick that experience as you do it. And the best way to do is to build things. So build things that are out of your comfort zone, and then reverse engineer it. Take your time to spend a lot of time planning and learning it, but execute it. Like, show what you can do. Again, I'm going to repeat it like 3 times or like 100 times, but imagination and creativity right now is the number one thing that you should be focused on. AI agents will write 100% of the code in whether it's 6 months or whether it's 2 years. It's inevitable. But what we're going to create from that, it's up to us. And yes, and the last one is, if you know every step, you're probably playing it safe. If you know how to do your job 100%, so easy, and like, for example, you're creating websites and you can create it in 2 seconds and you're comfortable, that means you're not pushing yourself. Again, everybody's in a different stage of their career and kind of skill. So if you've only built websites like a static ones, go into building web apps. Create something different. If you only build web apps, go into iOS or macOS or Android or whatever you want, but create something different. Explore those different avenues and don't play it safe. You should be uncomfortable, especially on personal projects. You should be like a bit uncomfortable, almost a little doubt creeps in, where you're just like, oh, I don't know if I can create that. And then you're just like, okay, let's see how I can create it, right? You should be slightly uncomfortable when you're building things. And so that's the only way to learn and pick up. And by doing that, you'll become better at using AI, because you'll start finding different ways of exploring it and trying to find solutions to different problems and different workflows. And that's the most important thing. And remember that you are setting the direction. So the direction, you're the compass, essentially. You give it the biggest goal you can. So that's all you have to do. The tools will kind of come along the way, and there'll be new AI models and new things, but you just set a direction of where you want to go with the app, and everything will follow. Now, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I know that it's a very different video. It's unedited, raw footage of me kind of explaining, but it was easier for me to make it, and I wanted to get it across as soon as possible. If you like this, of course, put it down in the comments. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. But besides that, I'll be working on a lot more AI content, a bit more technical. So we'll cover evals and the context engineering in the future. But if you like this type of style of video, let me know, and I will see you next time.